There we go. There we go.
You are listening to Words with a Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. Coach Sess. Coach Sess. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. I am Mad Coach. Coach Sess. Coach Sess. You are listening to Words with a Mad Coach.
Now there we go. Now we're having some fun. Now we're rocking. All right. So let's talk about losing streaks. And you know who's on my mind when it comes to losing streaks. We are thinking about Kevin Holland. That's right. You know, more so like, what's the big issue when fighters go through losing streaks? What are we looking at in terms as the primary cause? And what can we do about them? And so when we look at people that have had losing streaks, what did we see happen? Let's think about Tony Ferguson. Look what happens, or it is happening. He gets on this losing streak, and it seems like Tony Ferguson can't bounce back. It's like he's just on this losing streak. He can't bounce back. Doesn't seem to be able to self-correct. He has moments, you know, but he just can't bounce back. And then we know people like Ronda Rousey. You know, once she got on the losing streak and she was gone from the UFC eventually. So, you know, the thing about the losing streak is you can't let it get to you. But we see that it does eventually impact the fighter, and they either stay on that losing streak, they get hurt, they lose the favor of the fans, or eventually the promotion has to step in and say, we've got to do something better. We gotta help you and get you out of here. So losing streaks, you got to address those things early. You don't want to be into a 6-7 fight lose streak before you try to self-correct. You've got to do the things up front. And sometimes that means doing the things you don't want to do, which is taking time off. And I was talking about Addison Henry yesterday with Aaron Murrell. They're going to fight at Fight for It 24, February 28th. Here's one of those things that I saw. Like Murrell was on a losing streak, but he took about a year off and kind of sort of self-corrected. See, I'm like, okay, that's what you got to do when you haven't gone through a losing streak. You got to put some time between you and the defeat, because it's fresh in your mind. It stays in your head, and you're going to repeat. Think about a good feint in fight. The way you throw a good feint is you throw your combo, your jab, or whatever it is you're going to throw, and you get the guy to respond to it. And when he responds to it, you know you got him. Then you throw the feint, he over-responds to that, and then you hit him with the real attack. But if you wait and you put too much of a delay in there, well, the new behavior isn't going to set in. You see what I'm saying? So, like, when it comes to your defeats, you got to create that delay so that you don't get used to losing. And I know a lot of guys. I've got a fighter, a friend really, but I used to train him for a while, and he would fight some, 6-7 times a year and never really take training camps. And, and I would say out of those 6, he probably won 2 and lost 4. And what happens over time, you get used to that routine. He's 2-4 every year, or he stays on a losing streak for quite a while, 6-7 fights. And the biggest thing you got to be worried about is the getting injured. So let's look into losing streaks and see what some common causes of what losing streaks are. And so one of the things you will notice always when it comes to a losing streak is tough competition. Anytime you're up against you're putting yourself in that situation, because I'm not going to sit here and say I don't encourage that. Fight the best of the best so you can be the best. But you have to be strategic about it. I was looking over some of my old notes, and one of the things, I think this is a conversation that me and Marcelo Rodriguez were having about the Pius brothers. We're like, we love them. We like what they do. We like seeing them on shows. We like seeing them, build up the interest. The issue for me with the Pius brothers is the randomness of their competition. It's not so much that they don't compete. It's like 1 minute, I'm grappling, 1 minute I'm kickboxing, 1 minute I'm doing this, and I'm like, Because I don't want to see him get hurt. Because you can do too much. All right. So getting that tough competition in all areas, I love it, but not at the expense of them getting hurt. And that's the only thing about when it comes to that tough competition. Yeah, I get it. I love when guys go fight, but it's got to be like a method to the madness a little bit, just a little bit of a method. Like I'm going to fight, like think about jujitsu and you want your next belt. Well, you want to become a blue belt, beat up all the white belts. All right. Trying to prove that, you're the man because you can hang in there with a purple belt or something like that, which justifies your blue belt, could also mean that you upset that person or a group of people, and then they target you and you get hurt. So I'm trying to make this relevant to your situation. Same thing if you're a boxer in the gym and you're a new boxer. I wouldn't start with the pros. They're going to lay into you once they realize what you're doing. And I know where everybody gets that from, because everybody watched that Michael Jordan documentary, and Michael Jordan said that whenever he first came into the league, what he would do is go after the best player on every team. All right. Remember, Michael Jordan sometimes likes to embellish a story. Now, the concept of doing that is amazing. That's beautiful. But don't take everything Michael Jordan says to be the end all be all. I like listening to great people say the things, but it's for the purpose of taking in information and then calculating that information relevant to my situation. It's not just listening to them say, well, I'm going to go do that. All right. Don't put yourself in that situation. All right. Just make sure you're taking in information and you're evaluating. I don't care how much you like the person. I do not care how much you like. If you ask me, like, Coach, who are the people that you like? And I talk about, I like Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, his philosophical stuff, his psychological stuff. I like Tony Robbins. I like Gary Vee, but that doesn't mean that I want to, get into the wine business. Gary Vee started out that way. I don't want to go that route, but I love listening to him talk about how he became who he is. I like listening to the process, and then I evaluate the situations and say, okay, what is similar? What attributes and traits do I have? So the same thing with like taking on this best competition. Just because I say it, I don't want you running out there taking on the guys that are too far from your level. Level up. Understand, like, for instance, if you're a kickboxer, evaluate your own game. Let's say, okay, you're on a 4-fight win streak. Look back at all your old fights and pay attention, like, how many rounds did you go? If you went all the rounds and you haven't knocked anybody out, well, I would not suddenly be like, well, I want to take on all the knockout artists. Look at your industry and say, okay, who are the other guys who go the distance, that do well, and which one of those guys can I beat? Look at it round by round. Let's say you do 30 kicks a round. You want to level up? Don't go after the guy that's doing 90 kicks a round. Go after the guy who's doing 40 kicks around, because one, that's going to level up your game. You're going to have to do at least 40. All right. And plus, he's not going to be too big of an ordeal. So level up slowly, but level up. All right. So don't just jump out there and say, oh, I'm going to just take on the best competition without evaluating what that competition is, where you are at the moment. All right. If you're going after a guy that can train 3 times a day and you can only train 1 time a day, well, I would not chase that guy just yet until you can get more training time in. Don't go after a guy that's got 6, 7 times the experience that you have. You got 1 year, he's got 7 years in. Maybe not the guy I need to go after, unless his record is completely trash. Like he's completely upside down and he loses by KO. You know what? That guy might just be a hobbyist. But before you level up with this tough competition, evaluate the situation. And I was talking about Kevin Holland when I came on, but I don't think Kevin is evaluating this properly. I think Kevin's just jumping into these fights and taking the fights. And I'm getting a little concerned. Like he's just jumping in there without any strategy behind what he's doing.